Yo, what up? Actually, let me try this. Nope. Close. This? Nope. Hmm. This? Sure, we'll go with this. Maybe. Hold on, let me do this first real quick. This? Nope. This. Alright. Discord. Oh no. Alright, we're gonna sit in this channel. Nice. Gonna mute this. Currently muted. Perfect. Let me drop back to this. Nope. This. Wait, what is this? Huh. Anyway, not worth it. This one. All right, cool. So I got an interview tomorrow, and I'm just gonna answer questions like I'm in an interview. I don't technically need my headphones, I guess, but I'm gonna sit in Discord, and if anyone wants to ask me a question, they can. Otherwise, I'm gonna use my phone and ChatGPT. To come up with questions. Try ChatGPT, stand by, log in. I do think I have an email set up. That's not it, apparently. Maybe this. Oh, you gotta edit it like this. That's confusing. All right, well, it's going well. How could I not get this email right? That seems weird. Is caps lock on? No. Weird. All right, well, sign up, I guess. Yup. All right, I signed up. Verify your email. Come on. Send me the email. I'm trying to verify. Spam? Nope. All right, resend it. I'm thinking for the interview that it'll just be a phone call, right? But it'll probably be on Teams, so I'll probably use my headphones pictured here, and I won't need this mic in front of me. It's got its own mic right here. I haven't used the mic portion in a while, but it shouldn't matter. All right, well, I can't get this thing verified. What the heck? The password seemed right because like it was the correct amount of characters or whatever. All right, well, that's not working. Let's just try my other email. Forgot password, yup. Check your email. Now I'm waiting on 2 different emails. Oh, okay, I got the verification one now. Cool. Done. And I got a password reset for the other one. Very strange. Very strange. Log in. Tell us about you. Have a heart. Continue. Verify your phone number. Enter the code we just sent you. Alright. Got a 5 in it. Come on, show me the goods. Okay. So I'm just gonna go through the questions that have already been asked while we wait on ChatGPT. First question. I guess I always do like I dress up even though it's a phone call. I always do that because it's like puts you in the right mindset, right? So I'll be in like a suit, at least a dress shirt and pants. And then if they do want to do like Teams, boom, easy. And I'll be like, hey, my name's Hart. I'm applying for the job. What's up? And they'll ask me questions. First question listed here from the interviewer, Flutternib, boxers or briefs? You always gotta like, you don't want to say like a canned answer immediately, right? Even though I've already answered this for this interviewer before. Want to put a little bit of thought into it. And if I need to, I'll just like say it again real quick. I'll be like, boxers or briefs? I think there's a lot of factors that play into this choice, right? And so personally, I would say briefs, just briefs, because they have a lot of different advantages. And in my past work and roles, briefs have really come through in a lot of ways, a lot of supportive ways in the past. I do think that there is an argument to be made for the other, and that's fine. But the only argument I can think of currently as to why you would want the... Oh, you know what? I'm answering incorrectly. I apologize. Shoot, what happens if you answer incorrectly and you're just like, oh wait, I want to take back everything I said? Boxers is what I was gonna say. If I realized halfway through my answer that I was answering the wrong thing, but it didn't matter, I guess I would just keep going. Boxers is what I would choose. Normally I guess it's always boxers or briefs in that order, right? So the argument here for briefs not only is the support, but also in this economy, you got to think about the value of what makes them up, right? You could be in some positions where it's not really going to matter, but if money becomes a factor, the amount of material involved, those sort of considerations would lend you towards briefs because there's, in most cases, less material being used, less sort of overall involvement. However, there are cases where you would want boxers because you're looking for breathability or whatever. So probably don't say whatever in the interview. Breathability. And I think that in those cases, yeah, it makes sense, right? Boxer briefs are a valid consideration as well. I do think that they take up the same amount of material, but if you're looking to express yourself, more material will obviously provide you a wider canvas. So if you're trying to, show off maybe like a design or something, then yeah, definitely. Support-wise, though, I would say they're about the same as boxers, simply because that's how they're designed, right? They're supposed to do both, and so you're not going to get the same support. It's just the way it is, right? I'm just gonna go right to ChatGPT, I guess. What are 3? Because I don't want it to give me like 19 freaking questions. My question is, what are 3 questions an interviewer may ask to try and trip me up during an interview? I cannot predict with certainty what an interviewer may ask. Okay. We've seen this, and okay. So the 3 questions are, tell me about a time you made a mistake at work, and how did you handle it? What is your biggest weakness, and how do you handle conflicting priorities and deadlines? It tells you sort of why, but the important part, can I make this bigger? Yes, I can. Huge. I'm going to forget about this later and be like, why? We'll pretend you're asking, tell me about a time when you made a mistake at work, and how did you handle it? A mistake at work. Let's see here. So there have been some cases that I've worked on where it was up to me to determine sort of what the next steps needed to be in the case. It's my current position, so without giving any details, because I'm actually not allowed to by law, for example, if I have in the past made a call for a case that there's nothing more that can be done, and then the person whose case it is obviously is upset about that and wants to push further, and they express their upsetness sort of back to you and also supervisors, things like that. I always take ownership. I think that's really important because it's hard to grow from not taking the ownership. But if you do say, okay, I made this mistake, and then because you made the mistake, you have to make up the amount that was lost, basically. So if it's time, if it's whatever, you put more, you focus on all the details, you reach out to people you might not have in the past because you're trying to fix the mistake, and that can lead to recognizing what you're going to do in the future, right? Because you spent time on it, you learned from the mistake, instead of saying, oh, well, it didn't actually matter or something like that. It matters to the person who was involved in it, right? So I think that the best thing you can do is, even if it doesn't necessarily matter to anyone, a mistake is a mistake, and you should shoot for 0 mistakes or as few mistakes as possible, because they happen occasionally. But learning from them and learning about the surrounding circumstances and everything can really help you with that situation and all further situations that may be similar. And you do that first by saying, I own this. I did this. Thank you. What is your biggest weakness? What is your biggest weakness? I think that okay, this is going to play into the next question, but I'll pretend like I don't know what the next question is. I think my biggest weakness is when something comes along, I just say, okay, I'll take care of it. Like, not that I'm not willing to say no if it's something outside my abilities or whatever, but if something shows up in front of me, it's a job, it's a task, it's something, right? I'll say, okay, I'll handle it, I'll do it, whatever. And a lot of times that means that my list of things to do is way more than someone else who may be helping with the same tasks, the same jobs, whatever. So that leads to pushing things back priority-wise that may need to be further up. Obviously, I'm not going to push anything back that needs to be handled immediately, but when you take on so much stuff, you just can't finish everything in the time that you would think it would be done from the outside. So playing into that ownership of mistakes previously and the priorities thing that's going to come up that I'm pretending I don't know about, if you own everything, that's great. What the heck? That's great. But you also may take on too much. And so being able to, I guess, ask other coworkers, hey, can you handle this for me? I'm really swamped. It is something I do, but my priorities are my own and I want to own them. So I don't often say, hey, I simply can't do this, but it is my task. Can you help me with this? Maybe I can help you next week as well. Because I don't think about that. I always think everyone's got their own gigantic list of things that they need to do and have done. Why would they even have time to help me? So reaching out to people and saying, hey, can you bring your skills to bear on this? Isn't my first thought, I guess, is my biggest weakness, taking too much on for myself. And then, of course, how do you handle conflicting priorities and deadlines? When I do take on things that come across, urgent matters have to be done immediately, and I do them immediately. Currently, in the position I am, if something comes from our sergeant, our lieutenant, chain of command stuff, that stuff is done first, because that's not the norm. That's not how things are normally given to us. So those things being outside the norm need to be handled in as timely a manner as possible, unless you're doing something even more important, like talking to the person directly or something like that, right? But probably not. Most of the time, if it comes from on high, those are outside the norm, and so those need to be done, right? But I always have a list of things that I'm doing. I currently use my email, and it's just I have little markers. I keep everything organized. What I want to do is I want to be able to look at it and say, okay, the next thing I'm doing is this, because it's marked in this way. And so I organize like that. And then I have a calendar, obviously, that keeps track of upcoming deadlines that maybe aren't today, or maybe I need to remember for today. I have little pop-ups, of course, if you use Outlook, but all of those events sort of occur so that I remember, but I sort everything so that I know where it is and when it's going to happen. Conflicting priorities, again, coming up with ways around that, asking people if they can push a meeting back or forward even. You obviously can't be in 2 meetings at once. You can't handle 2 cases at once. You can handle 2 cases at once, but not at the same exact time, right? So I schedule everything out, and then anything that I can't go to, for example, there's a meeting actually on Wednesday that I'm going to, because on Thursday I have another meeting. So I requested that the meeting come ahead of time, right? Scheduling everything out. A lot of people are really willing to work with you. And then if I can't do it, obviously I find coverage. That's just how it works. You must find coverage, right? If it's beyond your capabilities to even attend, coverage, yeah. Any strategies or tools you use to manage? All right, cool. I didn't want to read these ahead of time. So mistakes. Question is designed to see how you handle mistakes, whether you're accountable for your actions. Boom. Ownership. Nailed it. Be honest. Describe the steps you took to rectify it. Nailed it. Weakness. Classic question. If you are self-aware and honest about your limitations, it's important to answer honestly, but also show that you're taking steps to overcome it. Definitely. What are 3 more? Something went wrong. What? No, give me more questions. Oh, no. Let me reload this. Oh, wait, I can go back right here. Okay, nice. I reloaded it. They want you to have specific examples, right? Which is really difficult because I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. First question, and I'm not reading sort of what ChatGPT thinks I should think about them. I'm just reading whatever. Can you walk me through a project you completed from start to finish? What motivates you? Super easy. How do you handle difficult coworkers or customers? Can you walk me through a project you completed from start to finish? Yes, definitely. Of course. So, I guess the one I'll use is something in which we had our supervisor was out for an extended period of time, and the chain of command, gives stats and information upwards to say, okay, here's what this unit's doing, here's what this group is doing, here's how the individuals play into these statistics, all that stuff, right? And what had been happening was that information was going to our supervisor, who would then sort of move around the information that they wanted and then send it up, right? Well, with the supervisor being out for so long, nobody was handling that. And so basically we needed an entire new process in order to get all this information. So luckily, I looked into our G Drive, our shared drive, and there was information about previous reports that they had been sending in from several years ago, but I asked to make sure that they were kind of relevant. That was the same system that they were using, and I took that from all the different individuals and I made one Excel spreadsheet where they could put in their values, put in their information, and then it would calculate all of the stats across the entire group, but everyone also had access to it. So instead of 15 people sending an email to one person who then organized all the information, it was 15 people when they had the time, updating that sheet and then sending it up to the supervisor. And in order to do that, I basically created a spreadsheet, and then I went to the detectives and I said, hey, how does this look? And also, is there anything that, since I don't do this process specifically, that you would be looking to have in this process? And they gave me some notes. I have a couple different changes, and I kept each, change log so that I could see, okay, this is the one that's most current, whatever. But I had older versions in case we needed to go back for reference or something like that. And then once I created the final, okay, this looks good to everyone, even the supervisors, I put it live, and they were able to all hop in there, and it's still being used today. The sheet's actually been remade a couple times, but the whole system, which seems obvious, but also we weren't doing, because it had never come up and it had never been an issue. I fixed all that stuff, and then I told everyone, of course, because that's what I do. Hey, here's the new system. Here's what you need to do. Here's how to do it. And supervisor, here's where you can get it. You can pull it out. You can do all the stuff you need to with it. Send it on. All of that stuff. And I created that. What motivates you? Completion motivates me probably more than anything else. I have told bosses and supervisors in the past that I don't care about money, and it's relatively true. I've also told a lot of people that, but the thing that motivates me the most is like short recognition. Hey, that turned out great. Hey, this system that you created is working well. That's all I need. I'm like, cool, I did it. Great. I don't need to have like a name up anywhere or any of that stuff. Just like a boss walking past and saying, you did great. I appreciate that a lot. And I would assume everyone does, but there are people who are motivated by money or motivated by something else. But for me, it's just, one-to-one recognition. Not a party, not any of that stuff, just one-to-one recognition. Mm-hmm. How do you handle difficult coworkers or customers? I talk to a lot of people who are in difficult situations as clients. That's sort of what I do. It's my job. And a lot of times their situation is difficult because they don't understand what's happening and the whole situation, it can be like they're involved in a case, or they are basically something bad has happened, and so they are upset because that bad thing happened, and they don't understand what the process is for how to pursue it, go through it, all of that information. So a lot of times the easiest thing to do is explain the system, explain what's needed, when it's needed, and how they can achieve that stuff, because often they are the only ones that can provide the information that's needed in a timely manner. If we try and get it, that's a subpoena, it takes months, it's way too late. So in telling these people, hey, here's the process, here's what we need, often they are satisfied simply by their newfound understanding. And not only explaining my unit's sort of series of events, but also the grander scheme that they might not be aware of. For example, if it's like a scam or something like that, just explaining how it works a little bit, how they can protect themselves in the future, which is a really big thing, and giving them information. And then let's say hypothetically it's not even a case that's ours. Oftentimes I do know about other units, and I can give them a little bit of information so that it doesn't feel like I'm like dismissing them and saying, oh, there's nothing we could do for you because it's a different unit's case. That's not enough, and that makes people really mad. And so when they get to the next place, they think they've been pushed off, right? So providing as much information as the person needs to feel comfortable is the best thing you can do. And then, of course, if you reach the point where there's no more you can do for this person, offering them the opportunity to speak to your supervisor is the only thing you can do. Often it's the same information, but they need someone else to tell them, you know? So yeah, information is key into difficult situations. You walk me through a project. This question allows the interviewer to see how you approach projects, articulate your process. Cool. Be sure to highlight your contributions and how you collaborated with others. Seems good. I think I did. Question is designed to understand what drives you and if your motivations align with the company's mission and values. It certainly does, because this is public service and you're not getting any additional money. How do you handle difficult coworkers? Assess your interpersonal skills. Explain how you approach difficult situations. Listening actively, staying calm and professional, or seeking mediation. Oof. Provide examples of how you handle different difficult situations. Examples is difficult because I'm not really giving you specifics, but also I'm not super allowed to give specifics. What are 3 qualities you must possess to work on a project, either independently or in a group? Three qualities. I would say first and foremost, adequate communication. It's important to communicate your goals, the company's goals, your processes to anyone else who's involved, or to the client or company or whatever. It doesn't have to be incredibly eloquent. It doesn't have to be the most verbose communication, because a lot of people are like, oh, excellent communication skills are required. You don't really need excellent communication skills, although that's definitely a plus. You need the ability to communicate what the important parts, right? And that can be excellent communication, but as long as it's adequate, I would say, working with others, telling people, the goals, what you need, all that stuff, is definitely required. The willingness to be malleable or changeable is definitely a quality that you need as well, because unless you're doing the same thing every single time, which might be the job, and even then there might be something that changes. There are different situations happening constantly, and the solution to one situation or the resolution might be different for another situation. So whether you're alone or with a group, that is definitely important. And when working with a group, they're going to bring insight and information that you just can't possibly bring yourself. So being accepting and willing to change along with that information is definitely key. And a third quality you definitely need is I guess the way to say it is dedication, just to complete jobs, complete tasks, complete things, being not just being willing to change and to be involved, but to see something all the way through. That might play into the ownership thing I talked about earlier. That might be just dedication to finish and do the job. It's it seems like it goes without saying, but the willingness to put in the work is super key. Yeah. Let's see if it knows some supervisor questions. Come on, bro. Refresh. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for it to type. Thanks, chat GPT. Wow, it said a lot of stuff this time. How do you handle conflict within your team? How do you motivate and encourage your team? What is your approach to performance management? Okay. How do you handle conflict within your team? A lot of issues that lead to conflict come from the disalignment of people's goals and values, right? Whether it's they have certain skills that they think are key, or they think that something about the job or task is lesser, but someone else doesn't. A lot of the issues that go into teams is that the values are just different, and a lot of times, although the values or the sort of what everyone brings to the table is different, often the goal is do the job, finish the task, put everything out. Wait, what the heck? Hello?
Oh, Mr. Hart, yeah. Mr. Hart?
Your mic's moving, but I can't hear you. What the heck? Is my headphones off? Oh, whoops. All right, it's back on. What's up? Hey, I can hear you now. Do you need a lozenge?
Mr. Hart, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Glad you could get to the interview.
Yeah, I definitely am on time. Let me organize all my, I'm just rushing in off. Yeah, but I'm here. I'm ready and prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, I got your resume here. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I have a copy as well if you need, but it sounds like you have it, so that's fine.
Yeah, I have it right.
All right, awesome. Here. I'll just keep mine in front of me then. So.
I don't think I need it. I'll just throw this away.
All right, I'll just keep one on the table, for reference later if you need it.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Okay. Yeah, I did.
So what do you do here?
Yeah.
What do you do here?
Well, I'm applying for a position. I don't do anything.
Yeah. What would you be doing here? What do you think you would be doing here?
Well, I applied for a specific position. We'll call it inventory supervisor. We'll call it that.
Okay. So
yeah.
you're gonna come in and supervise our inventory.
The people who handle the inventory. Yeah.
Oh. So you're saying we're incompetent?
No. I'm saying that is what I applied for.
Okay, so why don't you tell me about yourself then?
Okay. Sure, I could definitely do that. I do think that the public service positions have very specific questions that they can and will ask, and I don't think that's one of them, but I would love to have a short chat before the interview starts about myself. I have been with this organization for 6 years so far, in a different department, and serving different needs, but I do think that my enthusiasm and abilities will serve your department as well, very well.
So you work here already?
It's a really big place, so yes, I work with the company, but no, I don't work in this department.
Oh, let me get that res. Hold on a second. Let me. That's a rapper. Never mind. No, it's no big deal.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So, what of your some of your weaknesses?
My weaknesses, some. Okay, I'll just list off a couple, I guess.
Yeah, a couple.
A couple, sure. I do think that one of my biggest weaknesses is my sort of gravitation to taking tasks on myself. Something comes across by email or comes across to the team, and I say, okay, yeah, I'll do that, I'll handle it, whatever, let's do it immediately, just to make sure that it gets done. And oftentimes those are tasks that can be maybe delegated out or handled by someone else. They might not even be a task for my position, and obviously if I'm doing something for my position, I wouldn't do that, but I do often take on more than maybe someone else would, and that can lead to a detriment. Furthermore,
well, I would like to to follow up on that. So how well do you handle stress and pressure from such tasks?
Well, I do think that every job has a little bit of stress, at least, but when it comes to stressful situations, I think that the best thing you can do is prioritize and plan out scheduling. So I have a system in which, in my current position, I organize different emails that come in, different calls that come in based on what needs to happen with them. And then I take care of them in obviously the most necessary order, depending on how expedient they need to be. So organization is key for reducing stress, I think, and also taking that time, say at the beginning of the week or at the beginning of the day, to plan what's going to happen. And then things will come along and mess all of that planning up, but you can at least set aside time for each task that you have during the day or during the week.
Right. And if you have any problems that arise or your conflicts with your team members or managers, how might you handle that situation?
Let me just.
We are very aggressive here.
Yes. Let me ask you this: are you affiliated with ChatGPT?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm not looking at an AI thing right now. No.
That's totally fine. I asked ChatGPT to give me some questions earlier, and it had similar questions. But let me tell you, would you mind repeating the question?
Do you want a different question?
No. I'll take this question. I remember.
Okay.
I was just checking if you do.
Just how do you handle conflict?
Yeah, of course, within your team and stuff. So I often think that conflict within a team is sort of the misalignment of values and goals of the different team dynamic, right? So maybe someone has specific skills or specific goals that they'd like to handle, and then someone else will have differing opinions on what should be handled or different skills, that sort of thing. And in looking at this conflict, oftentimes it can be resolved by obviously taking a moment. If it's just a one-off kind of thing, take a moment, everybody cool down. We can come back to this knowing that we're all here to support each other and do our jobs. And then if it's more of an ongoing or long-running conflict, stepping back away from it and saying, okay, these are your goals, these are your sticking points. How do they lead towards our goal of working for the company and completing, our tasks and goals, and showing the person or the individuals how the other, I don't want to say other side because we're all on the same side, but they can feel like it's another side, right? How that side, if you will, also has the same end goal point, but they're just trying to take a different route to get there. And often when you step, that far back and you look at the meta situation above it, you can see that everybody was sort of going towards the same goal all together, and we often find that we can work together and reach that end point and that end goal together. Mm-hmm.
And what if you're not able to, due to ethical or type of dilemmas, or just be able to not work with a person? How would you handle that?
Well,
you cannot work with that person.
Ethical considerations specifically probably would need to be reported so that an investigation can occur. Ethics normally brings in some sort of bias or maybe even criminal activity. So in that specific case, I would definitely relegate that to a more formal investigation. However, in the other situation you mentioned where you simply cannot work with someone, as you said.
Yeah.
I have been in that situation in the past, but I think everyone understands that that doesn't mean you don't do your job. That just means that you would like a boundary in place for yourself for whatever reason you find, right? And if we can't bridge that gap, we can't get two opposing ideas to mesh, then I think it's perfectly acceptable to meet your goals, continue doing your job, but have limited interaction with the other person, because they also are attempting to do their job and attempting to meet their own goals and everything. They also work with the company. So just providing that barrier, that safe place to continue doing your job as you want to do, I think is totally acceptable.
Well, as you know, we are a very large company, yep. And we do have something called a HR department.
We do, yes, of course.
Yes, so you can, if a problem arises with, such a coworker, I would, we suggest our employees, talk to HR. Not saying that anyone's a snitch. No snitches here don't get stitches.
Of course.
Yeah. So we, just want to make sure that, because that could lead to, if you're having issues with other people, that could lead to them going to HR, and then they, it just sometimes also helps with a to have an HR representative there for a mediation, for example, just if you guys can't talk.
Right, and that is part of and plays into that assurance that the company and we will take the steps that we can in order to allow you and to provide for you the skills and time and space to do your job, and the same for that other person or other people or whatever. However, there are a lot of opportunities that I know of within the company in order to even move departments if necessary, if it becomes such an issue. They do that for all sorts of reasons, not just conflict, but I do know that is one opportunity that you can avail yourself of. And of course, like I said, ethical conflict is different and would need, an investigation through HR and mediation and stuff.
Yeah, HR, yes. Furthermore, to go on that, can you give me an example of a time when you had to solve an inventory issue or discrepancy?
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. So I've been a part of several instances. I am not allowed to tell you the specific items and stuff involved, but just to do a little more general than that, I have been involved in a situation where something very valuable and critical may have been missing, and so the company, as you know, has a lot of items and systems in place that provide information. So when something goes missing or something seems wrong, even there's a lot of opportunities to do research. And so in those situations, because in the specific instance I'm talking about, it was so critical that item be found, we actually stopped what we were doing and we attempted to do the research by through the system, and then we did the research by tracking the item step by step and contacting everyone who was involved with that item or shipment. We could think of it the same way, but in this case it was a specific item. So we contacted each individual person, and then when it came to still being unable to find something so critical, we literally went and searched every piece one by one and eventually found it because it had been mislabeled through the system. And you sort of take that wide net approach, and if that doesn't work, you go one step closer, trying to resolve the issue. You don't want to go directly to piece by piece searching for something, because you just skip the system and you skip all the accessibility that you have. But that's always the option, and that's always the end goal. And then at the end of the day, if we hadn't been able to find it, we would of course taken ownership and said, oh, we can't find it, or it was given to this person and disappeared, or something like that. And that would just have to be reported. But in this specific case, we did locate it, fix the issue in the system, fix the issue on the item itself, and we sent it on and continued the process with it.
Mm-hmm. And you are familiar with our management software, our inventory software?
I don't currently use the one you use, which is, I think, got a K in it. However, the one I use and am familiar with, it tracks items along with narrative case information and sort of every interaction that goes through each person. So there are over 1 million items that it tracks. Each one is able to be located specifically in a place wherever it's been put, and that's the system I'm familiar with. It allows for shipping in and out of items through multiple agencies, shipping out and creation of items at the local level, as well as from everyone who may be putting in items or taking them out. I'm also familiar with green screen and the OMS system from a previous position.
I know those. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fabulous. Again, not the systems that you're using here. However, if you are familiar with them, the way they work is, again, they track not only large shipments but also individual items moving in and out through multiple, I guess, transactions, if you will, going out, but also large shipments coming in, and then placement and things like that. So I have 5 years in that system and 6 years in the current system.
You're just kind of going through some of these questions, and you're marking off some of my other questions as you're answering your questions. So
perfect. I'm sure that the other questions are required to be asked, so you're welcome to ask them if you want.
Yeah. So what sets you apart from other candidates?
Uh-huh.
So we have a lot of people. A lot of people
course.
are applying.
So
Big,
this specific department, I actually used to volunteer for a similar department as early as the 6th grade. There were positions, classes and electives that you could take for volunteering. So for multiple years in a row, I have volunteered at a position much like what I might be taking when I join the team. It's a long-running passion of mine. My mom used to take me all the time, so I've spent a lot of time there just in my own leisure time as well. And then beyond that, when this when the company opened this specific department, I volunteered because I heard about it. I volunteered to help at the opening ceremony. So I was there guiding traffic, giving people information. It's a beautiful location, a beautiful building. It's won awards, and I think it's amazing. And so I think that what sets me apart from other people is not only my passion, but my long lifetime of passion for this specific department, which is why when the opportunity came up, I said, I have to apply for this. It's an honor just to apply, honestly. And I think it's an amazing opportunity.
Well, my dinner's here, so someone else will have to take over for me.
Yeah, ChatGPT's got you, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, you get my vote. I'll let the other guys know and girls and stuff.
All right. Yeah, it's definitely supposed to. It's definitely supposed to be a multi viewpoint, so I'm sure there's a lot of different people on the interview board. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of the whole committee, and they're just around.
Right. Yeah, they're over there somewhere. Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, yeah, have fun.
All right, bye.
Interview. Bye.
Thanks. I have to make sure that I mention, that volunteer stuff. I've been doing it for a long time, so yeah. How do you motivate and encourage your team? When I joined the private team that I was with, not to give you any specifics, but when I joined that team, I requested it. I asked for it. It's the kind of work that I like. So I joined on as a lead. Excuse me. And the way it would work is that I would work the first part of the week in the early mornings before everything opened up. And I would take stock of everything, make sure everything was, where it needed to be, fill holes, all that stuff, like identify the holes. And then 2 days out of the week, at the end of the week, I helped with the trucks coming in, shipments and things like that. And so those teams are under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure because, they often feel like they're in the back, nobody's taking notice of them, they're just there to basically have hands and arms, and that sentiment was sort of around, and it grew a little stronger, I would say, just before me joining the team. And I think that bringing my knowledge, because I was in the position that I was in, to know sort of where everything needed to be filled. I knew all of that information, offering that knowledge to the team in a way that they didn't normally see because they weren't doing that job. It allowed me to show that we weren't just in the back, just throwing things around and stuff like that. And then additionally, a lot of the team was rather young, and so learning about them, I learned that competition was really important for that team, and each team has its own motivations. As a group, as a collective, but also individually, everyone's got their own motivations. But learning about them and showing that I was knowledgeable, they sort of opened up, and we basically started not a formal competition, but like a competition between each other. Like, I finished this, already, or I've already done this whole department, or I've already done whatever. What how are you doing, and like checking in with each other, making it sort of, a back and forth instead of just nose to the grindstone smashing stuff out. It actually did help. And I think it's 9 months. I would have to go check. But for a long string of months, we were number one in the entire region, going from very low numbers all the way up to the most accurate inventory and the fastest paced inventory, because the two things work so well together. Being as accurate as possible on knowledge about the inventory situation, and then having fun and motivating the team, putting those two things together, it created this great situation in which we were winning like rewards and parties and all of that stuff. But the important part was that we were sort of having fun through the competition, because that's what the team really valued. And knowing what comprises the team and what motivates them can help you encourage them more than anything else, just knowing them. Knowledge is, of course, power, as everyone says, but application of knowledge is incredibly important as well. What is your approach to performance management? So it kind of plays into what I just said in learning about someone and what motivates them, but specific positions have numerical goals. You have to meet a number of units or a number of tasks complete or whatever. And when you're below them, there's definitely something in the way. Sometimes that can just be attitude. Sometimes that can be a specific portion of the position. Maybe it's a certain step or a certain series of steps that can be completely altered in order to make the whole process more streamlined. For example, I mentioned earlier that my supervisor was out for a very long time. But before that, she was having an issue with a bunch of emails coming in about the same thing. And so I was having a lot of issues completing my task that I needed to do, because the emails went to her and then needed to come to me in an altered fashion. She needed to do something with them, and then I handled them, right? So the issue basically was that because they were sort of just shotgunned out there, it was hard to find them all, collect them all, and then move them from one person to another, which is obvious. Like, across multiple people within a team, that's just the way it works. So I actually contacted some other teams and I said, hey, how do you do this process? I reached out to other people and I said, we're having issues with this. Recently it's changed. So how do you do things? And in learning about the different processes that other teams did, I chose one that met the needs of our team, and then also that would allow my supervisor to complete the steps that she needed to do efficiently, right? So I changed the process entirely. It was confusing for several weeks, and then beyond that, it's flawless. Like, it works perfectly, even if she's not there. As I mentioned before, if she's out for a while, the process can still happen. It's not all gone. It doesn't all go to her email or someone else's email or whatever. The process is completely changed so that we can handle it all without that weird series of steps. So when approaching the performance metric, often if there is an issue, then the issue is some set of steps that must be occurring, and this person needs to do them differently or needs access to something else. However, if they are meeting and exceeding whatever the goals are, I personally think that should be called out randomly, and to them, just like I like, coming up to them and saying, hey, you're doing great. Hey, you hit that metric. Hey, whatever. But also asking them, is this something that you like and want, shared with the group? You're hitting these metrics so heavily and so well. I'd like to shout you out to the group. Is that something you're comfortable with? And if they are, definitely make a big deal of that as well, because a lot of people find success in other people's success. And if this person's doing something really well, maybe it can be applied to the other members of the team in order to move forward and get their metrics to the same. Or maybe they're all doing great, which is the goal, right? And we just reward everyone. That's the perfect team, and that's the goal, right? Oh, snap. Be sure to discuss any changes you face in this area and how you address them. Perfect. Discuss your approach to goal setting, feedback, and coaching. Provide examples how you help team members improve their performance. I think I did that. Motivate and encourage your team. Explain how you motivate your team to achieve their goals, whether it's through setting clear expectations, recognizing their accomplishments, or providing regular feedback and support. All right, cool. How do you handle conflict within your team? Like I talked to with Itro, that was interviewer Itro. Provide examples of how you have resolved conflicts in the past. Nice. All right. I think I'm going to have to restart or refresh this. Oh, my headphones died again. They turn off after silence, and you can hear me, but I can't hear me. Yep. Apparently, if I wait too long, ChatGPT is like, what are we even talking about? Oh, I didn't want a new chat. All right. Oh. All right, these are great questions. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision that affected your team? How do you handle underperforming employees, which I sort of just addressed, but I'm going to do it again anyway. How do you foster a positive and inclusive work environment? First off, can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision that affected your team? That affected your team. Yeah. So at the previous warehouse that I worked at, like I mentioned, we hit goals nonstop for months and months, just blasted goals out. And then our manager, the person above me, said, "Hey, I'm retiring." He had been there for a very, very long time. His name's Steve. He's amazing. He said, "Hey, I'm leaving. I've been with the company for a long time, but I'm starting my own company. It's right over there across the parking lot, so you guys can come and hang if you want to." And we did occasionally, but the important part is that he said he was leaving, and that sort of shook up our dynamic, right? But we continued to we just didn't have enough oversight, I guess, because they had to fill him in. So for a little bit we were leadershipless, or I guess managerless. I was leading, so I we still did the same stuff that I mentioned previously, but there were certain parts that we weren't achieving, and the company said, okay, we're going to bring in a new manager for you. We said, awesome. And we taught him our job, right? He came from another department entirely. He didn't know how any of the stuff worked, so we taught him the job, and then we scheduled ourselves. We did all the stuff that we had been doing when we were making these amazing goal, like, reward kind of metric numbers, right? And he would contradict us a lot, contradicted me a lot, said, oh no, we're not going to do that, we're going to do this instead. Months and months after, you know, he had been there, and we would tell him, hey, I think that this is the way it should be instead of this. And when several months after, once he, you know, was comfortable in making choices and everything, our numbers decreased drastically. Like, the allotment of work was off. People were having to come in at random times, and the whole team was sort of thrown off because he was making what we viewed as the wrong choices. And I spent a lot of time trying to get the correct things done and trying to tell this person, this isn't the system, this isn't how it works, so on and so forth, because he, coming from a different place entirely and not grasping the way the work was done, I guess, was misallocating us. And I specifically went to several of the other managers above him and said, hey, this isn't working. We need help. Our direct manager isn't achieving the way we think we should be achieving. He isn't supporting our team. He isn't meeting our goals with us. He is misaligning us, right? And they said, of course, we made a choice and we're sticking with it. And from then on, after making these, you know, requests for help, we sort of just stuck together, and they said, he's gonna stay, you got to still do the job, you got to meet the goals. And so we struggled, and we kept trying. That was the best that we could do. We just kept trying. We tried to teach him, we tried to guide him, and in the end it did not work. And so I left the company as well, for another position. Well, I was moving at the same time, so it kind of all played together. But yeah, I had to make that choice. You know, the team didn't work as well with me and him sort of at odds, and I tried to step back and say, maybe his method is right somehow, and it just didn't work out. I don't think that's what I'm going to use for that answer or that question. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision that affected your team? Because quitting because your boss sucks is probably not the best difficult decision, although I really wanted it to work. And I did stay for way longer than I think a lot of other people would, trying to make it work. I think I'll take something else, like okay, so for this question instead, I will say, oh, okay. We had a lieutenant who came into the department, the unit, and said, we need to vastly increase the amount of items that we're handling. And I was the person to take that on. And the way the system works was basically I was in direct contact with the clients, and then I would guide them to the person that they needed over time. But I had to do a bunch of steps in the middle and, get all the information and coordinate all that stuff. And for 9 months, I did hundreds of cases a month, like an insane amount of them. And at the end of that time, I had gotten so, I was really, really fast, the fastest you could probably do them, but also I could not do anything else. And there was no way to continue. It was unsustainable. But what I did was I kept track of all of the stuff I was doing because it was a test, right? And at the end, well, not the end of the test, but at the point at which I thought there's no way this can continue, I went back to him and also everybody from the top to the bottom, and I said, here's all the metrics that I have, here's all the information, you can see how much time it's taking me, how many I'm doing, and the output at the end, which is almost nothing, almost no change from our initial metric, right? Hundreds of hours of work into basically nothing. And we cannot sustain this. I tried, but we can't continue this. And we need to focus on the important ones so that we can support them over this huge amount of work that leads to basically no change in metrics. And it was accepted because I had so much information, and provided so much information, basically, that we had to change. You sounded deeply frustrated trying to make it clear that you left hoping it would help the team. Well, yeah, but also what actually happened was I said, fire this person or I'm going to quit, and the rest of them are going to quit after me. And they said, we're going to stick with it. And I said, I quit. And then they all quit after me, and they lost the entire team of people who had been doing all this freaking like literally number one stuff. They were like, well, we made a choice, so we're going to stick with it. And then months, not years, months after we all left, they reassigned him. They were like, oh, you can't do it. And we were like, ah, we told you, but you lost us all because you wouldn't listen to us, right? They're bad. How do you handle underperforming employees? I talked about this earlier. Basically, I think that finding one's motivation, as is clear in the other questions, motivation is really important, and having them step back and look at the whole system, the whole process, all the goals and everything, the department, and saying, what's the issue? What's the stalling point? And working with them on maybe changing that or altering the process or finding a different thing that may be more compatible. Because when you show people like, hey, I know that we need to hit the metric, but also this is your job and it's important that you can do it sustainably and comfortably and with all the tools and skills you need. That focus should also be there as well. It's not just the, here's the metric and the goal and everything. It's also you doing the job, which is incredibly important. So often that is, hey, is this a one-off thing? Do you need help or whatever? We can help you this one time. Or if it becomes more and more apparent that it's, ongoing, reassessing the process and the goal and everything, so that over time you can fix or change in order to meet whatever goal or task metric that you're looking for. Look for candidates who have a clear process for addressing performance issues, including setting clear expectations, providing regular feedback, and offering support and coaching. All right, yeah. What up, Zekros? Yeah, I've been applying to random stuff, so I thought, I'll just ask random questions and then respond to them like I'm being interviewed. I have an interview tomorrow, but it's mostly just going over, information, refreshers, things like that. I have some stuff emailed to me too. Let me look through that stuff. Let me delete this. And then I'll answer this last question also. Let's see here. Whoops. Interview tips. Okay. Oh, these are questions and answers. That's not interview tips. Oh, that's cool. I think practice is super important, right? Which is why I'm doing this. But I think that the jobs I'm really confident for when I apply for, I don't normally get, but they help me to get in the mindset, get everything prepped, get everything ready for the ones that I'm less confident for, which are the ones I normally get, and they're whatever. So that's also why when I do interviews at the end of seasons, I do an interview with Gob first, because there's always a sound issue, there's always like a screen issue, there's always some random issue. But if I do the one with Gob and we have fun and goof off, I also identify where those are, and then I fix it for the actual ones, right? I have this document from work, because they give you supporting information for applying for jobs and stuff. But this is just random. I guess they had a chat running and people just ask questions. What are some key points the hiring manager is looking to hear during an interview? Each manager is looking for different things, blah, blah, blah. As part of your preparation for an interview, you'll have to read the posting, preferred qualifications, and notes to the candidate to help identify what the hiring manager is looking for. Obviously, do your research, right? A key question to ask yourself is, are you providing enough context, detail, and experience in your answer for a hiring manager to be comfortable with your skill level for a position? Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of trouble finding specific instances that aren't cases, because I deal with cases that are protected by law, so I can't give details. But as long as I don't say names and specifics, no dates and none of that stuff, it should be fine to talk about specific things. But I'm not going to do it here, because this is just a bunch of random people on the internet, right? Even though you're not random, you're my friends, but still, if someone else sees it, oh, well, you can't have that information. You're not allowed. Swap the word because with the reason being. Meow. Meow. Letter of recommendation is not necessary for us. I don't know why that's listed here. Ask for feedback afterwards. All right, that's not super helpful. I'm gonna look at this other thing. Interviewing is primarily a skill and not a talent, and everyone can become better at interviews through learning, preparation, and practice. Study the job posting, review your work history. That's something that I often don't do and I need to do, which is why I print out the resume and bring it, because then I have my resume in front of me. But like, I know I've done a bunch of stuff in the past, but I don't think about it all the time. Like, I forget that I worked places unless I try and list like all the places I've ever worked. Like, I've worked at multiple food restaurants that I don't think about because they were shorter, they were really far in the past, and I don't really use those skills currently, right? Like, I don't make food currently, so I don't think about them. But a lot of the skills that you learn in those positions are super applicable. Talking to people, pressure during specific times, priority choices, stuff like that is all super important. I just don't ever think about it. So, yeah. Reviewing your work history is important, I guess. Thank you, Nightbot. Prepare interview answers, which is what I'm doing right here. Furthermore, I don't do it, but you could do it. If you're getting an interview on the phone or by Teams, freaking have answers already. Don't read them directly, but you can have like bullet points and stuff, even if it's on the side of your computer or written down in front of you or whatever. Like, preparation is something that is applicable to a lot of jobs, so why not prepare? You don't know what they're going to ask, but if you have a bunch of information around that you can reference, your answers just show how good you are, right? Yeah. Interviews are a time management exercise. Finite time to answer questions, so maximize that time. This is like tips about knowing sort of how long things take and how much time you have to answer and things like that. They're actually recommending not to do things that I think are valuable, but that's fine. I always have time at the end of my interviews, so I ask questions because I'm interviewing them too. Like, I might not know exactly what the job is, and I might not be a good fit, and I might not want to do it. There are several jobs where at the end of the interview, I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And there's one job that I got the job, and they were like, we can sign you up and do all the information now. And I was like, hold on, wait, let me ask you these questions. And so I asked questions, and it turns out the job wasn't what I thought it was, and I was like, no, I don't want the job. I'm gonna leave. It was like I thought it was for a auto sort of tent company, like handling sales, distribution, stuff like that of like large amounts of the product, but it turns out they wanted me to sell it directly to people, which is totally fine, but they wanted me to do it like in that scummy way that people do, where they like approach you in the parking lot and sell things and junk. And I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna do this. And so I was the only person in the room in a suit, right? And at the end, I start asking questions, and I'm like, what's the environmental impact of each of these things that you're selling and applying and stuff like that. And they were like, oh, well, we don't know the environmental impact. And I was like, all right, are there any steps that your company's taking, for greenhouse gases and all of that stuff? And they were like, oh, we don't know. And I was like, all right, that's cool. You don't have to know. You're like low level. And so then I just started asking more basic questions, and they were like, oh, we don't know. And I was like, cool. So this is like a scheme where you probably make some for referring me and getting me in, and then you just need a bunch of people underneath you to go out and sell the job, and they probably only make money if they make sales or whatever. And so it like became obvious that it was just like the lowest tier of this company trying to get people in. And then they were like, cool, you want this job? And I was like, nope, bye, gotta go, deuce. Did not take that job. What else is on this suggestion thing? The way it works at this place I'm applying to, I work in a different department, but I'm applying. Basically, they give you numerical points based on your answers. So if you say the things that are the goal, then you get the points, right? If you say, oh, I don't know the answer, then you don't get points. And the person at the end is most likely the one getting the job is the one that has the most points. And some of those points come from experience within the company. Some of those points come from your answers. And always say something for the question. Oh, I'm not familiar with that system, but I do use these other systems currently, and I have used these systems in the past, and they work in a similar way, and here's how they work. You might not get, yes, I use this system, but you'll at least get, I'm familiar with similar system that does this specific thing. And then also, what's your greatest weakness, for example? Oh, well, I often take on too much, and I've been working on delegating. There's so little in that answer that if they're looking for a specific phrase or a specific something, that they're not getting it from your short answer. So you got to say enough stuff in order to answer the question and get the points, but not take up too much time, because nobody likes it when you take too much time. So that's how our system works anyway. That's what they're talking about. I'm basically reading slides from a PowerPoint that they provided. Two types of questions are general experience and specific examples. For general experience, start with broad job titles, years, stuff like that. Supplement it with examples and details. And then for specifics, obviously, start with your specific details and then supplement it with job titles and years of experience. So like, here's a specific case that was really difficult, and then I did it, I've been with the company for 6 years, blah, blah, blah. Build your network. Ugh. Volunteer to assist on hiring panels. Super helpful. Think of each interview as an opportunity to improve. That's what I said earlier. Common mistakes. Not applying for positions. We got that covered. Waiting for the perfect job. Obviously, knowing a job that you're not doing is difficult. Not practicing, here we are practicing. Not preparing, here we are preparing. Not participating in the job process. I can't participate more at this point. Lack of detail in answers. That is an issue that I'm going to have and I'm working on. Answering only part of the question. It's important to hit all the parts. Not providing an example. Talking in generalities. Okay, this is my problem area right here. Describing the company process versus your process. Okay. Limiting your experience to the job minimum. No, that doesn't matter. leaving time on the table, too many questions to the panel, not asking for feedback, no detail. Okay, not that. Not preparing for the next role, not ready to perform the new job. Okay. Some of that's really basic. Let's go to this. Oh, that's information about the interview that I'm actually doing. What the heck is this? Using the STAR method for your next behavioral interview. What is this? Let's find out. Oh, perfect. Thank you, ChatGPT. You're so smart. The STAR method is a commonly used technique in job interviews to help candidates provide clear, concise, and structured responses to behavioral questions, interview questions. It stands for situation, task, action, result. Situation, describe the context and background of the situation that you're going to talk about. Task, explain what task or objective needed to be accomplished in the situation. Action, describe the specific actions you took to address the situation. Result, explain the outcome of your actions and what you learned. I think I do this automatically, but if you go back and look at my answers, I do this just automatically in the same order sort of every time. I've never heard of this, I don't think, but seems good. It's important to be specific and focus on specific situation and to quantify your results. Increase sales by 20%. Okay, using the STAR method can help you demonstrate your abilities. Cool. I'm gonna make this bigger. We can look at all of it. See what this says. Oh, here's an explanation of the points. A great answer indicates a high level of expertise and knowledge, substantiated with relevant examples that demonstrate the ability to go above and beyond the requirements of the position, contains all and additional elements not listed in the ideal response. Okay. Ooh. Obviously, I have the ability to talk for way too long. So I got to make sure that my questions are concise. I might do my own timer. I don't know, though. That might mess me up. Maybe I should try that. Let's see. I'm gonna open my timer or stopwatch timer. We'll put it at 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. can you describe a time when you had to handle a difficult employee issue and how you resolved it? Yeah. Let's see. Difficult employee issue. There was a situation in which I and another coworker disagreed on several processes, specifically releasing things in the line of work that I was in. We did it all the time, but the criteria for doing it and the methods of doing it were they're very strict and very specific, but the situations were often so unique that it didn't really apply to those specifics. So you could sort of interpret them in multiple ways with differing outcomes and situations, and so it was a very complex situation, and we often disagreed on how to solve those situations. And early on in the discussions, we both disagreed. So I would provide my side and I would give references and examples. And then he would say, he was very, he had been there a long time. So he was sort of stuck in an older process that wasn't wrong, but it wasn't designed to serve specifically the client. It was designed to protect the company. And from my point of view, with fresh eyes, from my standpoint, I believed that focusing on the client side wasn't necessarily better, but it was something that we should put in higher regard. And so I explained my point of view and my side, and then over time it became me taking ownership of those specific instances and saying, if there is an issue, I'm going to put my name on it. I'm explaining things. There's a way to, put narrative information there. And so I would provide information as well in the case, and I would say, hey, I know that you're worried about backlash on you. I'm going to take ownership of this and say I'm the one who owns this, who did it, who did all the steps. Even if you should be doing some of the steps in these specific cases that are very unique and very contentious to both of us, I'm going to do them as well, so that if anyone comes back and there is an issue, I will know all the steps that occurred and I will say it was me. And then anything beyond that, I did ask for mediation, and I said, we disagree. We just disagree. We can't come to an agreement. Both of us are technically right. And I had a supervisor step in to sort of mediate us, and it became a situation where, like I said, those specific instances where we disagreed, I took full ownership. He took full ownership of the opposite direction, even though I was on board with his side as well. And it became sort of a split where we were both doing the job, both completing everything we needed to, both fully within the SOPs, but we just did things a little differently, and that was okay for both of us within the system, and the system allowed for that, and it worked out eventually. It just took us sort of talking it out and then addressing the concerns, which his were, this is going to come back on me, and I addressed that and said, I will take it entirely, and we handled that. I petered out there at the end, but that was 4.5 minutes. Let me reset this. What specific steps do you take to ensure that your team is meeting performance expectations? I think an important part of meeting expectations is check-ins, not necessarily, hey, you're behind in numbers, hey, you're ahead in numbers, not that sort of thing, but check-ins like, how are you doing today? What's going on? A lot of people see that as just chatting and just talking, amongst coworkers and everything, but you really can't get a sense of what's happening with someone if they seem stressed and they're swamped and they're saying, oh, I'm swamped. Then you can go to the numbers and say, oh, yeah, it looks like we're behind in the numbers. I'll help you, or I'll find help for you. I'll assign someone who may have less on their plate currently, or we'll call in somebody for just today. And those smaller check-ins that aren't formal can really help mediate the need from actual check-ins where you need to sit down and have a discussion and look at the numbers. And those definitely should happen later on, and they definitely should happen over time, because knowing what the workflow is like is very important. But check-ins over time and comparison, if you are checking in and saying, hey, you're doing great today, the numbers are really great, you're above what you were doing yesterday, that can motivate someone to do even better, which obviously they don't need to do necessarily, but that sort of accolade of, I'm doing better, or I'm more productive, or wow, I didn't think I was working any harder, but I'm doing better, might support someone into doing even better, or maybe even having enough time to help someone else because they are performing better than the other person. Maybe they can help with that other person as well. So I think that the check-in process is pretty important. That's only 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The question requires the candidate to provide specific examples of how they monitor performance, provide feedback, and coach their team. Look for candidates who have a structured and data-driven approach. Okay. Ooh. How they tailor their approach to individual needs. I should do that. Oh, where's my timer? Here it is. Okay, I need to include specifics. I gotta do specifics. For example, I should say for example in every single one, even though I don't want to. There was a time when, or I check in this way. I should do that. Yeah. Can you describe a time when you implemented a process or procedure that improved efficiency or productivity? Yes, definitely. I've actually recently overhauled a bunch of systems within my current unit in order to increase productivity and efficiency, but also in order to make them, I guess, more resilient to interruption and alteration. For example, I altered the timekeeping methods that we have currently. Our department uses a different system than your department, the one I'm applying for. But if you remember the old system that we're still using, here's how it works. I'm not going to explain it to you, but basically I'm just going to give a couple details. And a lot of that information was being provided by email to my supervisor, who was having a lot of issues because she was out for an extended period of time and couldn't actually handle the email. She was out for a legit reason, and so it was having to be handled by other people, and I created a system where everyone could access the information at all times in order to allow them as individuals to take their own time, put in what they needed to, and then provide it so that whoever was acting as supervisor at the time could see it all and just approve it as needed. And then I also had access to it. And what this did was it not only eliminated a bunch of clutter of emails and unnecessary communication from one person to another, to another, to another, to me, it also reduced my overall involvement. So even though I'm the only one who can do the end point and the beginning, provide the time and also take it all, by providing it all at one time to everyone instead of by individual email, and then taking it from everyone all at once in a specific place where everyone had placed it, that reduced my workload as well, so that I had more time to do other things. It really streamlined it, made it very smooth and clean, and it's still being used. We did that a couple years ago in order to, solve one issue, and then it became a solution for many issues, actually, and it worked out really well. That was 2 minutes and 45 seconds. It had a specific. It gave a little bit of information about the system, the challenges they faced, the results. Provide concrete examples of how they improved processes or procedures, who can quantify the impact of their efforts. Yeah, increased productivity, improved quality, etc. Cool. I'll be right back. My hair part is the opposite direction today, and it's throwing me off. I have to take the horns off of my headphones in case it happens on Teams. But I have to move the headphone thing, so I gotta test it tomorrow, make sure it works. Yeah, basically the camera is connected to that computer, which handles the stream. The computer you're looking at has the sound, so that every sound that occurs goes over there. Stream while interviewing? No. While I do think it's both legal and hilarious, no way. That would be really funny, though. Dang. This last one here. Wait, 4 questions? Did I miss one? Can you describe a time when you had to handle a difficult employee and how you resolved it? We'll just go with... I mean, I feel like I already answered that. Did I answer that? I'm pretty sure I did. Specific steps do you take to ensure that your team is meeting performance expectations? I'm just going to go to this last one. Can you describe a time when you had to manage a project or initiative from start to finish? Yes, definitely. Here's something I can give you the full information about, actually. I went to and graduated from a school called SFA, and while I was there, I worked for the university as a part of something called the Residence Hall Association, which basically at most universities there are multiple associations that provide student everything, right? Student programs, student activities, student whatever, right? So I was with one of them, and I was on the highest tier board, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but the stuff I was doing was so varied and so applicable to everything, right? And so I was something called the National Communications Coordinator for the Residence Hall Association, which is a whole bunch of letters in CC of RHA. And what I did was I not only sat in board meetings and had board arguments about Robert's rules, laws, all that stuff about the rules of the organization, but also we put on a bunch of activities for every resident to attend, and they had to be inclusive and involve as many students as possible, because that was our metric, right? We had a specific amount of money that we could use, and we needed as much interaction as possible. And then my specific position was National Communications Coordinator, which coordinated our university with neighboring universities for programming. I also coordinated with the region, which is called SWACUR, Southwest Association of Collegiate University and Residence Halls, and then nationally to NUCUR, which is National Association of Collegiate University Residence Halls. So me represented our university to all of the neighboring states and all of the states in the United States, which blows my mind when I think about it. But basically, I organized our regional delegations. So every year we would go to a conference in which I made sure we had hotel rooms. I made sure that we had a program that we could put on for other people while we were there. I made sure that we had swag and merchandise, and I made shirts and had them commissioned and all that stuff. And then I made sure that everybody had plane tickets or whatever they needed in order to get there, right? From college to this place, wherever it was, right? A lot of times we just rode in a van, but whatever. So Well, I'm just talking to you at this point. This is not my interview question. This is just explaining what I did, which blows my mind. Like, I was young and I can't believe that I was doing all this stuff because they were like, "Oh, you just do this." And I was like, "All right, well, I'll just do it. No problem," right? This is someone's like whole job, that they could do without going to school, and I also went to school at the same time, right? So we didn't go to the national ones every year because it was way too over budget, right? But we went to some of them. And so I was the person who made sure that we had a delegation in order to go of like 15 people that all needed to be coordinated, all needed to have all the stuff that they needed and all that junk, right? So that's crazy to me. So can you describe when you had to manage a project or initiative from start to finish? Yes. When I was the National Communications Coordinator for the Residence Hall Association of Stephen F. Austin State University, I handled coordinating 15 to 20 people for a major event out of state that we needed to coordinate lodging, travel, room and board, of course, and then also the projects that we were presenting. Sometimes these even included events that could be presented and should be presented at other universities. So we would be the originator of the program, organize everything that you would need to do in the program, and then pack it into a way that we could showcase it to other people. And we would take that, we would present it, offer it to the other universities for examination, to go through the program. We would present the program and also provide them information on the ways that they could provide it to their students as well. And we did all of that while still going to school and still completing courses in university. And that whole process occurred over multiple months. So I specifically would put out the information because a lot of people didn't know what it was. And then I would have people apply in order to be a part of it. And then we together as a team, with me sort of guiding, we would create whatever we were going to take to the proposal, or whatever proposal we were going to take to the event. We would create customized merchandise just for that year, just for us, so that we would all be recognizable across the entire team. And then we all would go, and in the same way that we were presenting information, we also needed to gain as much as we could. So I scheduled people in order to go to different events based on, their wishes. I wasn't going to make people go to things that they didn't want to, but we split people up so that we could get as much information as we could from all of the other universities, and then all of that information would be brought back, and then we would have meetings afterwards in order to see what we could apply to programming on our own university that would be inclusive, that would be fun, which is really important, or that would provide value to the students in order to allow them to, grow themselves outside of just their courses. And I did that for multiple years in a row. It was super fulfilling. It was also a lot of fun. And I just think that a lot of that stuff that I did is really cool. And that's another thing that I forget about all the time because I don't really do that anymore. But that's one of those things that I need to have on a resume so I can be like, oh yeah, I did that junk. What? I still can't believe I did that junk. One time, so we made these shirts. I still have one or two of them. We made shirts differently each year, and so they had the logo, and they had whatever our theme was going to be, because the whole conference had a theme, and then we would play into that theme, right? So we had customized shirts for us, and we would give shirts away while we were there. And it was the last national one that I took us to, and I had just done it so much, and I don't know how I missed it, because the companies that we worked with had also done it. They do it like every year, right, with us. And so you had to submit the logo and stuff to the companies in order to put it on the merchandise and everything, and they would create it and then send it back to you for proofs. And so I would always bring in other people and be like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And they would approve it, and I would approve it, and we'd send it back with maybe our changes or, you know, not. And we got to this conference, this national conference, and our information on the logos that we had on the shirts was correct. It had our university and everything, but you know, the letters that I said, they were out of order. I don't know how we had all missed it. It wasn't the Nakur. It said like Nacho or like Nachu or something, and it was wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh! But I didn't know until they had already been printed, put in the box, shipped across the country, and we were opening them to give them away, and someone held one up and was like, wait, I thought it was Nakur. And I was like, oh no, dude, oh no. And there was nothing we could do about that. And everybody's like kind of laughing and stuff. And luckily I had a really good advisor who was there, and he was like, these are one of a kind. No one else here has Notcher shirts, so just give them away. I mean, that's what they're here for. And I was like, yeah, I guess we're just gonna misrepresent ourselves this time. And it was very embarrassing, but also, you know, he played it off like, oh well, they're unique, they're one of a kind, just go with it because we can't do anything else. And I was like, yeah, we can't do anything else, so cool. And then we just gave them away. But it was really embarrassing there for a bit, so yeah. You hate to see it. Let's see, I got some more questions. I'm gonna reset my timer here. Oop, whoops. All right. Tell me about a time where you had to provide critical feedback. How did you approach this, and what was the outcome? That's similar to one of the questions I had earlier. Critical feedback. I do think this is one of the questions that I can talk about that supervisor that I had who did not know the job, because I taught him a lot about the job, right? And so we went through the process. I taught him the information about the job. He was new. We had Steve that I mentioned earlier. I think it's boring, so I don't really want to talk about it again, but these are specifics, so I want to make sure that I have the specifics. And we brought in this new person who had a new way of doing things, which is totally fine, and had a new outlook, which is also great, but couldn't seem to identify the need points, right? When what needed to be done, when, what the priorities were, he didn't seem to be able to identify them. He couldn't organize them or prioritize correctly. And that led to a lot of issues with things not being ready once everything was open. And so over time, I would tell him, hey, here's what we need to be doing right now. Here's what the goal is, which is when the store opens, have this done. We're not going to meet that goal right now. I think we should do this differently. And because I was not his supervisor, I couldn't tell him, hey, don't do this. You're doing it wrong. I could only give him the information, right? It's all I could do, and tell him that we weren't meeting it. And then I would provide that feedback as well through the, because I was working in the mornings, not on the trucks, but I was working in the mornings to identify the holes in the inventory and bring in everything that we needed and fill in all the holes. And I kept track of that. And I was the metrics generator, right? I would provide that information to him and I would say, look, here's the things that didn't get done. Here's the things we had to fix. The priorities need to change. And I provided that information several times, throughout the course of months in different ways, tried to get him on board. And eventually, despite my best efforts, he, I guess, had a different outlook or something. He never seemed to get on board. And I went to his supervisor, one of the managers of the entire place, and I said, hey, these aren't meeting expectations. We've fallen off. We had been number one for many months, and we had fallen off of that. And it was his job to prioritize the workflow. So he wasn't doing it correctly. And I pointed that out to his supervisor after I couldn't get it through to him. And the entire process took many months in order to try and get him on board. And eventually I went to his supervisor and I said, hey, here's the information that I've been providing. I can't provide it any other way. And it doesn't seem like it's catching. So you're going to have to take this information and do with it whatever you need to do. And they worked with him in order to try and meet the needs and the goals, and in order to try to change things, because we had been achieving and then we were no longer achieving. So that would be my answer. But again, the reason was this guy could not do the job. There's no way he could do the job. And they fired him afterwards. Or I guess moved him, didn't fire him, but he couldn't do the job. That was 3 minutes and 45 seconds as an answer. Next question. Tell me about a time you failed to meet a deadline. What did you learn? Failed to meet a deadline. So okay, in that same position that I worked in, every holiday is really big, and each holiday requires specific not specific. It requires greater amounts of basically everything, right? So you're doubling and tripling the amount of shipments you're getting in. You're changing by magnitudes the amount of stuff that you're sending out, right? Because everything needs to go out, everything needs to be turned over, and the entire place needs to be redone in order to handle this huge change to the workflow, because holidays just change the business that much, right? And we had this situation where we hit the beginning of the holiday season and the whole store hadn't been changed yet, and it should have been. And I had worked there for long enough that I knew the systems and repetitions of things, and I knew, oh wow, this should have changed already, and it hasn't. Something weird is happening, right? And so there was nothing I could do, and I realized that our team hadn't done it. And as soon as it sort of clicked and I said, oh, we should have done this already, I took ownership like I do, and I went to our manager and I said, hey, whoa, this, from what I understand, this should have happened already, but it hasn't. What can we do? I immediately brought it to the forefront, and they agreed that it hadn't happened. They hadn't put out the information. And so what needed to happen was basically huge amounts of work in a very short amount of time. And I actually stayed late, which I don't really approve of, because the workflow should be done when it should be done. But in one of these rare instances, and I probably wouldn't say this, I stayed late. I hate it. So I would tell the interviewer, I stayed late, and I convinced our team that we could do it, and what's funny is there was a storm and all the lights were out and we had to work by emergency lights. So it was this tense situation that was made even more difficult by not being able to see. And so we basically worked in the dark for hours in order to try and rectify the situation. And even though it was really stressful, it became kind of fun because, we all had to wear lights and we were talking by walkie-talkie and we couldn't figure out where anybody was. And so it became more fun because it had just gone way beyond, like everything was dark. So what happened was I took ownership. I pushed forward and made sure that everything needed to be done. I put in the extra work, and also I brought what I think is important, which is having fun along the way, if you can. And we got it done, which is amazing and incredible. And I learned that, yeah, of course, there are these scheduled things that need to happen, and sometimes even the higher up managers may miss something and make a mistake, but there's nothing wrong with asking the question, right? Should this have already been done? Oh, yes, we just haven't done it yet. Okay, how can I help? Those two questions. I need more information about this, and then also, can I help? Those two questions put together can really, really achieve goals that would not be expected. And it's very important to know that you could just ask questions, right? Just ask the questions. Nothing wrong with that. And so that's what I would answer to the question. In reality, though, because everything's a little bit of a misdirect, what really happened was I realized that we hadn't done this store thing right. And so I was like, man, we should have done this already. And I was sitting next to this guy, and this is why I need someone to always check me, because I can't ever tell if I should do something or not. And he said, they didn't tell us about it. And I was like, yeah, they didn't tell us about it. And he was like, you should just email the CEO, because we had gotten a new CEO of the entire company. And I was like, yeah, but I probably shouldn't do that. And he was like, it probably wouldn't matter. The CEO's mail is probably handled by his secretary anyway. They would just delete it. And I was like, yeah, they probably would just delete it. So I wrote an email to the CEO, which is perfectly fine. He had an email address, no problem. Nothing bad was going to happen from that, I don't think, right? The problem was, while I was in the email, I realized that there were a lot of people that I could email that I didn't know I could email. So I started putting people on the email, and I put the CEO, and then I put the regional managers, which would be, like the people who actually handled the entire region, right? And then a bunch of people sort of right at that level, regional managers, district managers, stuff like that, who are pretty high up. And I was like, hey, we didn't do this, whatever. And I didn't think that one through. So in one of the funniest things I've ever had occur in my entire life, he says, you just email the CEO, it's not going to matter. And I'm like, yeah, sure, it won't matter. And so I add a couple other people, and I hit send. And I turned to him and I'm like, ha ha ha, yeah, that was funny, right? And he's like, ha ha, that's funny. I got up out of the chair, I walked down this aisle, turned and walked through the warehouse doors, and in that amount of time, a manager had appeared in front of me and said, what did you do? And I said, I don't know this time because I had done a lot of stuff, right? And he said, did you send an email? And I said, uh-oh. Because all the district and regional managers had already emailed all of the managers in the building, and they were getting phone calls. And so he just appeared in front of me, and I was like, uh-oh. And then he goes, we need to go have a talk in the office. And then he told me that all of the information that they should have done and given out, they just hadn't done yet. And so I had told every other store and every other region that we were way behind, and that basically our management was doing something wrong. And I CC'd the CEO. It was so funny. Like, the speed was just incredible. Oh my gosh, so funny. So don't do that. Don't do that. And also have someone rational who will tell you, don't do that. You know, you need that second person to be like, no, don't do that. I just don't always have that second person, and I can't do it by myself because I think, this will be fine. So really, really funny. Makes me laugh every time I think about it. Dang. All right, I got another question. How do you organize your tasks, and how do you do that organization and prioritization while working with frequent interruptions? This is something I handle all the time. Let me start my timer. So I have a specific system that I use for my own information. I handle 2 different email addresses currently, one for my department, one for myself, and then the one for the department is also shared by multiple people, right? So I have an organization system for that, which handles the emails that come in, the priority that they need to be handled within. Even though I'm the only person who does it, I still need it organized. And then also there's an organization system for the calendar so that everyone can see what everyone is doing, that, you know, they need to know, right? So I organize in that way. And then my personal email is relatively the same, so that it's sort of mirrored, right? Anyone who looks at the shared email, even though they don't, they could, would also know my system for my personal email as well. Everything is organized based on priority, and then it's saved wherever it needs to be, or it's deleted, because if something has a record already, it doesn't need to be saved. It doesn't need to clutter. So anything that could be clutter is removed. Anything that needs to be saved is put into specific things. And then I also have a physical calendar as well that I keep recurring things on, even though, yes, I remember that they're recurring and I do them recurringly. I also have it on my calendar just to give me that other point of, hey, don't forget this. And then also anything unique that comes up, like this interview, I also put on that calendar, as well as my my Outlook calendar, just so that I remember sort of physically, okay, here's where it is. Those organization systems are labeled with labels that are explanations. So even someone else could look into my email and say, okay, here's how this stuff all works, right? And that allows me to prioritize really smoothly and efficiently by just recognizing what something is. It either needs to be handled immediately, which obviously you handle immediately, or it's handled during a specific task flow, workflow, whatever, so that something comes in, it gets labeled, I know when it will be handled if it's not immediately, and I know how it will be handled. And anything that doesn't fit into any of those sort of categories and situations, anything that's sort of unique, that requires maybe talking to someone else about maybe what it is or how to handle it. Maybe it's someone else's information. So those situations, even if they don't need to be handled immediately, I often do start that process immediately, because if it involves someone else, they need to be given time to handle it or reply or anything that they need to do. And if they're not given that information or the ability to do it in whatever time they need, then that comes back on me. So I don't want to bog down someone else's process, because that bogs down my process, right? I don't want to force someone into having to do something at very short notice, because that forces me to then, when it's returned, handle it at very short notice. Organization and prioritization is very important, so that it reduces stress, it reduces the I guess pressure on other people, which also reduces it on me as well. And that's why I do so much organization. End. That was 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Cool. What the heck? This guy. I should have my resume with me. I do have it. It's just not available on my computer that I want to pull it up. So, because I don't want you to know where I live and stuff, you know. Because that's on. Well, is that on my resume? I don't think. Yeah, that is on my resume. But anyway, you don't need it. Oh, here's a cover letter. That's not it. All right, you know what? My resume is not here. All right, I'm not going to pull it up on my computer. You already do. I mean, there are people who know what city I live in, but that's okay. What? You're up here? Second floor? Crazy. I know you can't stare through the first window or first floor windows, because they're all like blocked with that, you know, that light refracting film stuff that's really cool. It's called volcanic glass, but I think that's just a brand name. Basically, it makes a bunch of rainbows. It's pretty cool. I recommend it. Also, I think I'm going to be standing, because I normally stand when I'm on the phone. So I'll be up here. Do my interview. I won't be using this mic again. I have a headset mic. Got to take the horns off. I should probably do that now. What a major bummer. Don't worry, they just Velcro off though. Do they? Yeah. What a great thing someone made with 3D printer. Like, that's a good business, you know? It's just a piece of Velcro that you would put on your computer. So they probably had them already. And then they 3D printed a horn. Perfect. And again, this is only in case it's a video interview. I don't think it actually is. I'm pretty sure the interviewer said on the phone. But yeah. Another thing I don't do is I don't say anyone's name ever. Ever. Never, ever. But I do want to be the kind of person who says names, right? I want to be, you know, the person who's like, hey, Mike, how's it going? You know? I just don't like that. It's not for me. So. Oh, that's too high. Oh, it's because of the... What else? I'm bored of questions. I've answered a lot. Yep. I have dress clothes, like I said. Even if it's a phone interview or whatever, I wear dress clothes so that I feel like I'm in the, proper interviewing kind of mode. What else do I need? Huh. Covered a bunch of stuff. I guess I should print my resume while I'm there, have it in front of me, even though I could bring it up on my computer just to reference it myself. I should read my cover letter again and the position again. I definitely do that tomorrow. I have enough time for that. What else? I guess I'll go through the tips again. It doesn't really help you because a lot of the information was like how our specific organization handles the point system and stuff. And other companies don't do it that way. It's just designed to like be fair and helpful to our people who apply. Dark mode. Oh wow, that's nice. Been looking at light mode this whole time. Stupid. Oh. What else? I should ask. Oh, I gotta ask them questions. Just a couple questions. I do want to know, because there are so many positions that are innovating so heavily, just like mine has. Within our unit, within our department, I want to know if the position and the organization is innovating, or in what ways it may be innovating, if any, just to see if the job's gonna change, stuff like that. I think would be pretty valuable to know. And that just comes from me knowing that so much is changing and going on within the systems and the departments. I also want to ask, what else? I guess I'll ask if they wanted any elaboration or clarification on any of my answers, just to see if they want to know more. I'll also ask, let's see. I'm definitely going to ask if there are aspects of the position that are telework or that require multiple job sites, just because it's a completely different department and I don't know the answer. It seems like it's a 5-day be there kind of thing, but I'm not for sure. Currently, I'm only at work technically 3 days because I work 4/10s. So I work from 6 a.m. to 4:30. And then I'm off on Fridays, which is super cool, but also it's really early. And I knew I would have to give it up eventually. So it's cool. What else do I want to know from them? Innovation. job site stuff. When I applied for my first job here, I specifically asked, is this job dangerous? Will I be exposed to anything harmful or dangerous? And they said no, and that was a lie. That was a lie. One time I had a bag of random things and I dumped it out across my desk in order to process them, and one of them was a grenade. And I had it in a bag in the truck because I had picked it up, and I took it and I threw the bag onto the desk, of course, because it didn't matter. And then I opened the bag and I literally dumped it out, and one of them was a grenade. And I was like, whoa, all right, well, it hasn't exploded yet, so I guess I'm good. But also, we got to call someone who knows more about this than me. And that was fun. Cool. Yep. Another time, there was, in the same sort of way, except it was a bin. I picked up an entire bin of stuff all out of this drop area. I put it all into this bin. I put it in the back of the truck, right? Drove it. And when I say in the truck, I mean like in the cab, not in the back. Drove it. Dumped out all the stuff because really that's all you could do. And there was a gun that looked different than all the other guns and was provided different treatment than all the other guns. And I said, weird. Why is this gun like this, right? Like, that's odd. And then I had to go read why it was provided like that. And that said, there was a round jammed in it and they couldn't get it out. And it was live. And it was cocked back. So it could have gone off at any time. And it had been chilling behind me, and it was on the desk and all this junk. Like, come on. So when they told me no, they lied to me to my face. Nothing is supposed to be dangerous, but it definitely was. But I don't think that's going to come up. Yeah. We had this guy, luckily it never happened to me, but we had one dude who picked up a bag like this, and when he picked it up like this, a needle went into his hand from inside the bag, and then of course when he released the bag, the needle came out, and then he had to get a lot of shots and a lot of medicine. And luckily, he did not get HIV, even though the owner of the needle did have HIV. So he got lucky there. That was pretty scary, but not for me, obviously. Good times. I always wore gloves, personally. It wouldn't have mattered in that situation, but got lucky there. And I always wore gloves. I've picked up a lot of bags that have white powder in them, and later on found out that it was fentanyl, which, if you're exposed to small amounts of it, it makes you feel good, and then it makes you feel bad. If you're exposed to just a little more than a small amount, you just die. So those were supposed to be wrapped multiple times in order to prevent, like small amounts being on the outside, but they wouldn't be. So I got lucky on those too, I guess. But again, gloves. I'm not gonna tell you what I did as a job, but I've seen all this stuff. So yeah. Yeah, cool. What else should I ask these very chill, non-concerning employees? Airport security? Nah, nothing like that. Nothing like talking. Well, I guess I have talked to a lot of strange people. I once counted $10,000 back to a drug dealer because it was his money, which was a wild experience because the money was all kind of messed up. So I had to count it multiple times basically because it wasn't quite right, but it has to be exact right because it's gotta be. And that was really fun. He was so chill, and I was like, freaking better get this freaking right this time. Oh, jeez. So yeah, I guess I did deal with a lot of people, but not like security or anything like that. I can't imagine they need like forklifts and stuff. Mafia vault worker. There was a vault there. That's true. Yeah. It's full of guns though, not money. So it's very, I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want people to know, and I don't talk about it on stream that much, even though I do think it's fun to talk about these random situations I've been in. And also, it's way more tame and way less than it sounds, but sometimes really crazy stuff happens. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yep. But yeah, I can't imagine that they're using like forklifts and stuff. I am forklift certified, but I don't know if you know this, but forklift certified just means someone who is forklift certified evaluates you and then declares you're forklift certified. I mean, there's no like certification. I'm sure there is one that someone will sell, but it's not that big of a deal. And I can't imagine that they're using forklifts and stuff, but I guess I will ask just to confirm what I think's happening is happening. And I'll be able to handle that, I guess. When I worked at the position with the bad boss and all that stuff, it's the only vehicle you're allowed to drive. Okay, legally, sure. Perfect. Do you have like an actual certification or whatever? Like in paper or on a form or something? Because we don't have any of that stuff. Oh, you do? Okay, cool. I'm sure there is a certification somewhere, but mine just came from someone else and there's no like documentation or whatever. But that position that I worked at with the bad boss, it had this thing called Big Joe, which is basically it comes in a bunch of different forms, but the one we had was a giant platform, like this big, right? Oh, you can't even see. This big on both sides. Basically the size of a couch. And it had, chains around it and like a harness in the middle. And what you would do is you would pull a fridge onto it, and then you would go up 3 stories and you would push that fridge off onto a shelf, right? Which is insane. Like everything is moving. You're like rocking back and forth. The shelf is rocking back and forth. I'm slim. The fridge weighs more than I do. When we're on the ground, I have to get up on the top of a fridge and jump backwards to pull it down. Like, so to push it off onto like a shelf 3 stories up is crazy. And what's crazier is sometimes you couldn't do it, so we would do this thing we shouldn't have done, which was get off of the Big Joe onto the shelf and pull it onto the shelf, so we're just like free up there. Whew. Crazy stuff. And like washers and dryers and stuff we'd put up there, and we would stack them on top of each other. And that happens everywhere all the time, and I know that's pretty normal, but for me, it blew my mind. Yeah. I'm watching my cat. Just kind of roll around. I don't know what she's doing exactly. All right, whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna ask, I guess, unless we discuss it and it doesn't seem like the job has that portion, because I'm not sure. It's like an inventory warehouse kind of job, but it's not. It doesn't seem like a big warehouse, you know? Seems like maybe like a wedge in the back kind of thing. But I don't know. So I gotta ask, how often are incoming shipments, and what does the workflow look like, and is there heavy equipment involved? That sort of stuff. Is it customer facing? Because it doesn't feel like it is, but maybe it is. So I don't know that either. I don't think I would turn it down if it's customer facing, unless it was not supposed to be, you know? Like, oh, this isn't supposed to be customer facing, but we need you to run this window too. Like, oh, that sucks. I don't want to do that. I'm going to be mad from the time I start, maybe. What else should I ask? I want to ask them about AI because I think it's really interesting, but I don't know if I should. But my question would be something like, AI is showing... Oh, I'm not gonna tell that email to the CEO thing ever. Like, I'm just chilling talking right now. No, I don't. The second person in most situations is like SOP or just the job details, you know? That's the thing that's like, oh, don't do that. But the time when I bought Spurs and wore them to work because the dress code didn't specifically say you couldn't wear Spurs, and then it was decided that they could be used as a weapon, and because weapons like that were deterred in the buildings that I was in, so I shouldn't bring them or wear them. You know, in those cases, maybe I needed a second person, but in most cases SOP is enough, or just the rules of the job are enough, you know, that sort of thing. No, funny personable story is not, no, I'm not going to tell that story to any job person ever. No, that's a story I tell like 2 years into the job as a boss is leaving, you know. Bye. Hey, let me tell you this story. You can't audit me anymore. Haha. But on the concept of AI, like, I think my job currently could be done almost entirely by AI, and the department actually has made strides towards AI involvement already, which blows my mind. But that's just because they can't get enough people to do the job with people. So I would be interested if there are any AI involvements foreseeable in the future, specifically with this job and with the, I guess, department that I'm moving into. But like, I don't even know if that's relevant. It seems like AI is everywhere, but at the same time, maybe it's not. Maybe it just seems like that to us because we're paying attention, you know? I was having a discussion with a coworker, and I was telling him about, you know, the Twitch AI stuff and that thing about Avenged Sevenfold and just all these like random occurrences of people faking information, faking shows, faking people's faces and all that stuff. And he had asked, like, how long until you think AI is sort of everywhere and more prevalent and conscious? And I started saying all this information, and at the beginning I thought, oh, 5 years, right? 5 years. And I started saying all this stuff, and then I realized, like, it's everywhere already. When you make a phone call to a company and they say, like, in your own words, say what your problem is or whatever, that's an AI deciding where you should be directed. You know, that's like speech recognition and choices in a like choice tree, phone tree, all in AI, and there's no person there, right? That's crazy. And that's been there forever, you know, with banks and stuff like that. So being able to fake people's faces, being able to fake people's voices, and being able to make it, like, being able to write a cover letter with ChatGPT, all that stuff indicates, boom, we're already there. Like, AI is already everywhere. And then he said, oh yeah, I heard a story about ChatGPT 4 being, or showing signs of artificial general intelligence, which doesn't sound like anything, but I went and looked it up because I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. Basically what that is instead of just artificial intelligence, for example, Midjourney creating images, or ChatGPT talking to you, or writing code or whatever, ChatGPT 4 has general intelligence, meaning it can do multiple realms of information, knowledge, intelligence stuff, and not only do those multiple different systems, it can put them together, right? It can take thought from one. I read that ChatGPT 4 managed to hire someone on a Fiverr website to solve a CAPTCHA for it. That's cool. Yeah, it can take knowledge from one thing, take knowledge from another thing, and then use them to solve issues and problems together. So like it can create images that interpret things, or it can like write sonnets and plays with like information about feelings from an image, or like stuff like that, where it's not just telling you information, it's not just making a picture, it's not just writing a song that's like Linkin Park. It can use information from one thing, put it into another thing, and then solve a problem using the multiple different generality, categories in general knowledge, right? That's insane. Whew. What a time. What a time. But that's the same thing like the Amazon chat tool or whatever can do that, sort of. I mean, you basically tell it like, oh, here's an issue I'm having or whatever with this product that I bought, and it could be like, oh, well, we could try and solve the issue. Here's some tech support maybe, or I could get you a refund, or we can order a new one or whatever. But you're just talking to AI, like, you know, crazy. Very cool. I guess I will ask because it's so interesting. Even if they say no, at least, you know, at least I'll know. Is there anything else I should ask? Again, asking them questions doesn't really get me anything, but I do want to make sure that the job's a good fit. I already know how time off works and all of that stuff. I do want to know if this is the kind of position where, like, yeah, sure, the company allows you to take off time, but if you do take off time, it's very stressful or it puts a big impact on you or something like that. But it doesn't seem like a very good question to be asking, like, oh, how does time off work? But I guess through asking about teleworking, I'll find out, because if you can telework, you can take time off. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be in the building handling something every day. So, yeah. Upgrade to Plus. Plus has ChatGPT 4, right? We could ask it about general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence. I think you have to put that artificial thing in there. That peanut butter jelly sonnet that I had ChatGPT write was really funny. I don't know if Itro saw it, but dang, it was good. What the heck? Pretend to be blind. That can't be. Language? What did I say? I have no idea what I said. Weird. Heck? Oh. I wasn't worried about it because I was like, there's no way I said like any curse words. They just don't come out naturally, so whatever I said, it must have sounded like one, but there's no way that it was one. It's good at solving problems, good at its job, yeah. Writing code for a Discord bot and completing taxes. So I watched who's that guy who he does YouTube videos, and he's like, today I'm standing at the front of this military institution, and inside what you'll find is something that I had no idea I was going to find when I first started in 2003. Who's that guy? The former NASA guy? I don't know. He's a white dude with short hair, and he's on YouTube. So he could be anyone. I want to say his name's like Mark or something, but... Ooh, Mark? No, not that guy. That looks like... someone else. Not that guy. I'm gonna look through my history of. No, not glitter bombs or whatever. He's like he's in basically the video I saw was a video about AI. YouTube Studio, blah 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 blah. Oh, history. Where's history? How many videos have I watched recently? Too many. See if I can scroll back through and find it. Oh, my own videos. Perfect. Where are you, dude? Oh, Tom Scott. This guy. We're a React channel now. All right, this is an ad. I can't hear it though. Let me turn it down.
One of our experts who will do your tax.
This guy. Hold on. Nope, not this guy. One moment, please. This guy. Okay, so some of his videos, you know, but I watched this one and he had it write a code for him, and then it had issues and he worked with it to fix the issues, and then he found out that the reason it was having issues is because his original information that he gave the bot was wrong, and once he gave it the correct information, it wrote him a script that could access his email, organize it, code it, and do all this stuff. And it, like, without any issues at all, it just made a bunch of code that would have taken him hours to do, right? And even though it had problems and stuff, he could work through them and fix them and all that junk. And that's crazy, because if it could just write code, like, it could just make stuff, you know what I mean? Like, it could just make stuff do stuff. It can make a Discord bot, it can make a chat bot, it can make whatever. Like, if you can write code because someone asks you to, I don't need to learn how to code, especially not if it works. Crazy. His other videos are pretty interesting, I think. He apparently has really strong feelings about monorails. I don't know anything about that, but I watched this monorail video because I was like, oh, this is weird. And it really just moves you from one place to another, but whatever. But his videos are pretty interesting. Some of them are kind of dry, and that's cool. He talks about a lot of topics that I don't even understand. His video on AI seemed pretty good. That's all I was trying to do there. Tom Scott. He's the one who made, I'm pretty sure he's the one who made the video that just shows how many times it's been viewed or whatever. Let's see if that's here. Yeah, look at this junk. This video has been viewed 63,976,299 times, 63 million views. Basically, he wrote it in order to update constantly and all that stuff, and it does. And his video is basically like how he approached it and what it's going to do over time and all of that stuff, and how it's going to break eventually. But for a while, it works perfectly, right? Hello. What's up? Why are you yelling at me? Wait. I'm not going to put you on the desk because I've been telling you not to get on the desk. Put your face in the camera. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Super helpful. his most popular videos are that one with 63 million, and then we sent garlic bread to space, and then we ate it. Perfect. What? I'll let you out, but nothing's gonna happen. Bye. All right, cool. The react section of this video is done, I guess. I don't have anything else to go over that I could think of. I guess I'm done. Cool. Thanks for your help. Thanks for chilling. Thanks for learning about applying for jobs. If you are applying for jobs or thinking about jobs or not thinking about jobs, whichever is most appropriate, I approve. Thanks. Congratulations on your jobs or your future jobs or your lack of job. Whatever you want. I'm gonna go get ready for work tomorrow. Cool. Deuces. Oh, I didn't turn the light on the entire time? Oh well. When I turned that light on, I thought, okay, I gotta remember to turn this light on. Boom. I remembered. Yeah, all right. Bye.
Have hearts. Have hearts. Have hearts. Have hearts.